The forest doesn't feel dangerous at first. That's what makes it so effective. It welcomes you in quietly. No warning signs, no sudden shifts, just the soft crunch of leaves under your boots, the distant calls of birds, and the gentle sway of branches overhead. It feels natural, peaceful even. But if you stay long enough, you start to notice the silence. Not the kind that relaxes you, but the kind that listens back. Ethan had been hunting since he was a teenager. Not because he loved it, but because his father did. And his father's father before that. It wasn't a hobby in their family. It was a tradition, something passed down like an unspoken rule. You learned how to hold a rifle before you learned how to drive. You understood patience before you understood fear. But today wasn't about Ethan. Today was about his son. Lucas was 11. Too young, Ethan thought at first. But then again, his own father had taken him out when he was even younger. And nothing had gone wrong. At least nothing he knew about. The morning air was cold enough to sting their lungs as they stepped out of the truck. The forest stretched endlessly ahead, tall, skeletal trees reaching into a gray sky that hadn't quite decided whether it wanted to snow or not. Lucas adjusted the oversized jacket around his shoulders. "You ready?" Ethan asked. Lucas nodded, trying to hide his nerves behind excitement. That mix of fear and curiosity, Ethan recognized it instantly. He remembered feeling the same way. They walked for nearly an hour before Ethan found a suitable spot. Not too deep, not too exposed, just enough distance from the trail to avoid other hunters, but still safe. Or at least what he believed was safe. "Rule number 1, Ethan whispered, kneeling beside Lucas. "We don't rush." Lucas nodded. "Rule number 2, we stay aware, not just in front of us, everywhere." Lucas nodded again, gripping the rifle tighter than necessary. Ethan placed a hand on the barrel, gently lowering it. "Relax," he said softly. "You're not here to fight anything." Lucas swallowed. "Then what if something tries to fight us?" Ethan paused. For just a second too long. "That's not how this works." Time passed slowly. Too slowly. The kind of slow that makes your thoughts louder. Lucas shifted uncomfortably. No deer. No movement. No sound beyond the occasional rustle of wind. Ethan checked his watch. Still early. But something felt off. It started with the birds. They stopped. Not gradually. All at once. As if something had silenced them. Ethan noticed immediately. His posture changed, subtly but enough. Lucas saw it. "What is it?" he whispered. Ethan didn't answer. He was listening. That's when he heard it. Footsteps. Far away. But deliberate. Not the random scurry of an animal. Not the light, uneven rhythm of deer. These were measured. Careful. Human. Ethan slowly raised his hand, signaling Lucas to stay still. The footsteps stopped. Silence again. Then, a shape, barely visible between the trees. A figure, watching. At first, Ethan thought it was another hunter. It wouldn't be unusual, but something about the way the figure stood. It wasn't moving, not adjusting, not shifting weight, just still. Too still. Ethan gave a small wave. The kind hunters used to acknowledge each other. No response. The figure didn't wave back. Didn't move at all. Lucas whispered, "Dad, I see him. Why is he just standing there?" Ethan didn't have an answer, but he felt something tightening in his chest. "All right," Ethan said quietly, forcing calm into his voice. "We're gonna move." "Why?" "Because we can." They packed up slowly. No sudden movements. No panic. Just controlled, careful steps in the opposite direction. Ethan kept glancing back. The figure remained, watching. For a while, nothing happened. No footsteps. No signs of being followed. Just the forest returning to normal. Birds slowly began to chirp again. The wind picked up. Everything felt fine. Too fine. They stopped for a break near a fallen log. Lucas pulled out a snack, trying to shake off the tension. Maybe he was just another hunter, he said. Ethan nodded. Maybe. But his voice lacked conviction. Because deep down, he knew something wasn't right. Then, a snap. Close. Too close. Ethan's head whipped around. Lucas froze. The sound had come from behind them. And there he was again. Closer this time. Standing between two trees. Watching. Lucas's voice trembled. Dad, he followed us. Ethan didn't respond immediately. His mind was racing. Calculating. This wasn't coincidence anymore. Stay here, Ethan said quietly. What? No. Stay here. Ethan stood up slowly. Every instinct told him not to approach. But something else, something stubborn, protective, pushed him forward. He wasn't going to let his son sit there, wondering. Step by step, he moved closer. The figure didn't react. Didn't step back. Didn't speak. Ethan's grip tightened around his rifle. Hey, he called out. No response. Another step. Closer now. Close enough to see details. The man's face. Something was wrong with it. Not disfigured. Not injured. Just wrong. His expression didn't match the situation. It wasn't fear, or anger, or confusion. It was empty. Like he wasn't reacting at all. Like he wasn't even there. Ethan stopped. Every alarm in his body was screaming now. This wasn't normal. This wasn't safe. He turned around. Lucas were leaving now. They didn't wait. Didn't pack carefully this time. They just moved. Vast. The forest felt different now. Heavier. Like something had shifted. And then, footsteps. Behind them. Again. This time. Closer. Faster. Lucas started to panic. Dad, he's coming. I know, keep moving. Ethan turned briefly. The man was no longer standing still. He was walking. Not running, but walking directly toward them. And he wasn't alone anymore. There was something else behind him. Something being dragged. Ethan's stomach dropped. Don't look back, he said sharply. But it was too late. Lucas had already seen. Dad, what is that? Ethan didn't answer. Because he knew. Or at least he thought he did. And if he was right, they were already too late. They reached a clearing. The truck wasn't far. Just a few more minutes. But the footsteps, they weren't behind them anymore. They were everywhere. Ethan stopped. Heart pounding. Breath shallow. The forest had gone silent again. Completely silent. And then, from somewhere deep between the trees, a voice. Low. Distorted. Don't run. Lucas grabbed his father's arm. Trembling. Dad, that wasn't him. Ethan knew. Because the man was still behind them. Watching. Smiling now. And whatever was being dragged, it just moved on its own. Ethan slowly raised his rifle, but his hands were shaking because for the first time in his life, he didn't know what he was aiming at. A man, or something pretending to be one. The forest held its breath. Ethan could feel it. That unnatural stillness again, like the entire world had pressed pause just to watch what would happen next. His finger rested near the trigger, but not on it. Not yet, because something deep inside him was resisting. Not fear of the man, but fear of being wrong. "Dad," Lucas whispered, his voice barely holding together. "Please, let's just go." Ethan didn't respond. His eyes were locked on the figure behind them. That smile, it hadn't been there before. It stretched unnaturally wide across the man's face, like it didn't belong to him, like it had been placed there. And then, the thing behind him moved again. A slow, dragging motion. Leaves scraping, branches shifting, something heavy being pulled across the forest floor. Ethan's mind tried to make sense of it. A deer? No. Too rigid. Too controlled. The man didn't look down at it. Didn't acknowledge it at all. Just kept staring at Ethan. Smiling. "Turn around," Ethan said, his voice low and firm. Lucas hesitated. "Turn around." This time, there was no room for argument. Lucas obeyed. "Walk," Ethan continued. They started moving again. Slow at first, then faster. Behind them, the dragging sound followed. Not rushing, not chasing, just keeping pace. And that somehow made it worse. Ethan's thoughts were racing now. Distance. That's all that mattered. Get to the truck. Lock the doors. Leave. But something wasn't adding up. They should have reached the dirt path by now. They had been walking for several minutes. Too many minutes. "Dad," Lucas said again, panic creeping into his voice. "This isn't the way." Ethan stopped. Just for a second. Looked around. The trees. They looked the same. Too same. A creeping realization settled in his chest. We're going in circles. The forest wasn't just silent anymore. It felt wrong. Like the space itself had shifted. Behind them, the footsteps stopped. So did the dragging. Ethan slowly turned around. The man was gone. No figure. No movement. No sound. Just trees. Endless trees. For a moment, it almost felt like none of it had happened. Lucas turned too. Where did he go? Ethan didn't answer. Because something worse had just taken its place. The ground. There were marks. Fresh. Deep grooves carved into the dirt and leaves. As if something heavy had been dragged. But they didn't lead away. They circled them. Lucas stepped back. "Dad, it was going around us." Ethan felt a chill crawl up his spine. It hadn't been following them. It had been circling them. Like prey. "No more stopping," Ethan said quickly. "We keep moving no matter what." They pushed forward again. Faster now. Desperate. Branches scraped against their jackets as they moved. Twigs snapped underfoot. Every sound felt too loud. Too exposed. And then, a new sound. From ahead. A soft rhythmic tapping. Ethan froze again. Not by choice. His body just stopped. Lucas bumped into him. "What is it?" Ethan raised a hand. Silence. Tap. 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 It was coming from a tree. Directly in front of them. At first, Ethan thought it might be an animal. A woodpecker maybe. something normal, something explainable. But then he saw it. A hand wrapped around the side of the tree, tapping slowly. Lucas gasped. The hand disappeared. And then the man stepped out from the other side, closer than before, much closer. And now Ethan could see everything. The clothes, dirty, torn, not like a hunter, not like anyone who belonged out here. The face, that same empty expression, but the smile, wider now, too wide, and his eyes, they weren't focused. They weren't even looking at Ethan. They were looking past him, at Lucas. Ethan stepped forward instantly, blocking his son. "Stay behind me." The man tilted his head slightly, as if confused or curious. And then he spoke. "You saw it." The voice didn't match him. It sounded layered, like two voices speaking at once. One human, one not. Ethan's grip tightened on the rifle. "Stay where you are." The man didn't listen. Instead, he slowly lifted his arm and pointed behind Ethan. "Look," he said. Ethan didn't want to. Every instinct screamed not to. But Lucas turned first. And what he saw broke something inside him. "Dad," he whispered, his voice cracking. It's moving." Ethan turned. And finally, he saw it. What had been dragging behind the man. It wasn't an animal. It wasn't a person either. Not fully. It was a body, or what used to be one. Limbs twisted at impossible angles. Clothes torn. Face barely recognizable. But the worst part, it was moving. Slowly, dragging itself forward. Without the man touching it. Without anything pulling it. Just moving. Like it was alive. Or worse, like it was being made to move. Lucas screamed. Ethan snapped back into action. Run. This time they didn't hesitate. They ran. Full speed. No direction. No plan. Just away. Behind them, the forest exploded with sound. Branches snapping. Leaves crunching. Multiple footsteps now. Not just one. Many. Ethan didn't look back. He couldn't. Because whatever was behind them, it wasn't just the man anymore. And it wasn't just the thing on the ground. There were others, moving between the trees, keeping pace, surrounding them. Lucas stumbled. Ethan grabbed him, pulling him back up without stopping. Keep going. The trees began to thin. Light. A clearing. The road. They were close. So close. Ethan could see the truck. Just ahead. Relief surged through him. But it didn't last. Because as they reached the edge of the clearing, Ethan stopped, dead in his tracks. Lucas nearly ran into him again. "Why are we stopping?" Ethan couldn't speak, because standing beside the truck was the man, already there, waiting, smiling, and behind him, there were more shapes, figures, not fully visible, but enough to know they had never been alone in this forest. Ethan slowly stepped back, realizing the truth too late. They hadn't been trying to escape the forest. The forest had been guiding them, exactly where it wanted them to go. And now, there was nowhere left to run. There's a moment right before everything falls apart. When your mind tries to lie to you. Ethan felt it now. That desperate, flickering hope that this could still make sense. That maybe, just maybe, there was a rational explanation. But the moment he saw them clearly, that illusion died. They weren't just shadows anymore. They were people. Or at least, they used to be. Standing around the truck were figures in different states of decay and stillness. Some looked almost normal, dirty, pale, unmoving. Others weren't. One stood with its head tilted too far to one side, like its neck had snapped long ago and never healed. Another had its arms hanging unnaturally low, fingers brushing against the ground. And one didn't even seem fully solid. Lucas grabbed Ethan's sleeve, his voice breaking apart. "Dad, what's wrong with them?" Ethan didn't answer, because he didn't have words for this. But he understood one thing now. These weren't random. They were connected. The man, the dragging body, the forest, all part of the same system. And they had just walked straight into it. The man stepped forward. Slow, calm, like there was no rush anymore. Because there was. "You came back," he said. That same layered voice. Still wrong. Still echoing with something beneath it. Ethan raised the rifle. This time, his finger moved to the trigger. "Stay away from us." The man stopped, but the smile didn't fade. "You saw it," he repeated. Ethan's voice hardened. "I don't know what you are, but you're not coming any closer." For the first time, the man's expression shifted. Not to anger, not to fear, to disappointment. "You always say that." Ethan froze. "Always." The man tilted his head again, studying him, as if it matters. Behind him, the others began to move. Not all at once, not dramatically, just small movements. A step forward, a twitch, a shift in posture. But it was enough. They were closing in. Ethan's instinct screamed. This wasn't a standoff. This was containment. "Get behind me," he said to Lucas. Lucas didn't argue. He was already shaking, barely holding it together. "Dad, they're not blinking." Ethan hadn't noticed that. But now that Lucas said it, he saw it. Every single one of them was staring, unblinking, watching, waiting for something. Ethan took a step back, then another. The truck was right there, just a few feet away, if they could reach it. But as he moved, the figures mirrored him, step for step, blocking, adjusting, like they were reading his movements before he made them. "You can't leave," the man said calmly. Ethan snapped. "Watch me." The shot rang out, loud, violent, echoing through the forest. The bullet hit the man's shoulder, and for a moment, everything stopped. The man looked down at the wound. Blood, but not normal. Too dark, too thick. And then, he laughed. A low, broken sound. "You already did that." Ethan's heart dropped. "What?" The man looked back up, that smile returning. "You always try that part." Ethan staggered back slightly, his grip loosening for just a second. That was enough. The figures moved. Fast. Not human fast. Wrong fast. Ethan grabbed Lucas and ran toward the truck. They reached the door, yanked it open. Lucas jumped inside, Ethan turned, raised the rifle again, and fired. Once, twice. The figures staggered, but didn't stop, didn't even slow down. Ethan jumped into the driver's seat, slamming the door shut, locking it instantly. "Seat belt," he shouted. Lucas fumbled with it, hands shaking. The figures surrounded the truck now, pressing against the windows, faces too close, too still, watching. Ethan shoved the key into the ignition. Nothing. The engine didn't turn. "Come on, come on." He tried again. Nothing. Outside, the man approached slowly, placing a hand on the hood, tilting his head slightly. "You're not ready yet." Ethan slammed his fist against the steering wheel. Lucas was crying now. "Dad, they're getting closer." The windows, they were fogging. From the outside, not the inside. Ethan's breath caught. Something was pressing against the glass. Not hands, not faces. Something else. Something that didn't look human at all. A shape, stretching, trying to push through. The glass began to creak. Crack. A thin line spread across the windshield. Lucas screamed. Ethan grabbed his son, pulling him close. "I've got you," he whispered, even though he had no idea how. The crack spread further, faster. The figures outside didn't react. They just watched, as if this part was expected. Then, everything stopped. The pressure vanished. The cracks disappeared. The fog cleared. Ethan blinked. The forest was normal again. The figures gone. The man gone. The truck working. The engine roared to life. Ethan didn't question it, didn't hesitate. He slammed his foot on the gas. And they drove. Fast. Out of the clearing. Out of the trees. Back onto the dirt road. Back toward civilization. Neither of them spoke. Not for a long time. Because something felt wrong. Even now. Even after escaping. Lucas finally broke the silence. "Dad." Ethan kept his eyes on the road. "Yeah." Lucas hesitated. "Why did that man say, 'We've done this before'?" Ethan didn't answer. Because he didn't know. But deep down, he felt something. A memory. Faint. Distant. Like something just out of reach. And it terrified him more than anything else. That night, as Ethan lay awake in bed, he realized something chilling. He couldn't remember how they got home. Not the drive. Not the road. Not even leaving the forest. Just one moment. They were running. And the next, they were safe. As if everything in between had been erased. Some memories don't fade. They get taken. Ethan sat on the edge of his bed, staring into the darkness of his room. The clock on the wall ticked softly. Normal. Everything around him looked normal. His house, his life, his son sleeping in the next room. But inside his head, something was missing. He could feel it, like a word on the tip of your tongue. Except this wasn't a word. It was hours, entire hours of his life gone. The last thing he clearly remembered was reaching the truck. The figures, the glass cracking, Lucas screaming. Then, nothing. And yet, they were home, safe, unharmed. It didn't make sense. Ethan stood up, packing slowly across the room. His thoughts were tangled, disjointed, and then something hit him. The keys. He reached into his jacket pocket, pulling them out. His truck keys, still covered in dried mud. But not just mud. There was something else. A dark stain. Not dirt. Not oil. Something thicker. Ethan's stomach tightened. He walked quietly out of his room, careful not to make noise. The hallway felt longer than usual. Darker. Lucas's door was slightly open, a thin sliver of light spilling into the hall. Ethan pushed it open gently. Lucas was awake, sitting up in bed, staring at nothing. "Hey," Ethan said softly, "you okay?" Lucas didn't respond immediately. His eyes were fixed on the wall. "Lucas." Finally, he spoke. They were inside the truck. Ethan froze. "What?" Lucas slowly turned his head. His face was pale. They didn't stay outside. Ethan felt his chest tighten. "What do you mean?" Lucas swallowed. "I remember now." Ethan stepped closer. "Remember what?" Lucas's voice dropped to a whisper. "When the glass started cracking, you pulled me down." Ethan's breath caught. That part, he didn't remember. "You told me not to look," Lucas continued, "but I did." Ethan's pulse quickened. "And?" Lucas's eyes filled with tears. "There was something in the back seat." Ethan's heart stopped. "That's not possible." "It was there," Lucas insisted. "I saw it in the reflection." Ethan shook his head. "No, that's just your mind playing tricks." "It was." Lucas's voice cracked. "It was sitting right behind us, and it was smiling." Silence filled the room. Ethan didn't know what to say, because part of him believed it. "Then what happened?" Ethan asked quietly. Lucas hesitated. "You talked to it." Ethan's entire body went still. "What?" Lucas's voice trembled. "You stopped screaming and you just talked." Ethan shook his head again. "No, I would remember that." "You said," Lucas continued slowly, "take me instead." The room felt colder. Ethan's mind raced. "That's not possible." But Lucas wasn't done. And then everything stopped. Ethan stared at him. "What do you mean?" Lucas's voice dropped even lower. "It got out." A long silence followed. Neither of them moved. Neither of them spoke. Because they both knew. If that was true, then something had left the forest. With them. Ethan stood up slowly. "We're leaving," he said. "Where?" "Anywhere but here." Lucas didn't argue. Within minutes, they were back in the truck. Ethan didn't even pack properly. Didn't think. Just moved. The engine started immediately this time. Too easily. They drove through the empty streets. The world felt distant, like everything was slightly out of sync. Streetlights flickered as they passed. Lucas stared out the window. "Do you feel that?" he asked quietly. Ethan kept his eyes on the road. "Feel what?" Lucas hesitated. "Like we're not alone." Ethan gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Don't start that." But deep down, he felt it too. That same presence. That same watching silence. They drove for hours. No destination. No plan. Just distance. Eventually, they stopped at a gas station. The place was empty. Too empty. One flickering light above the entrance. Ethan stepped out of the truck. The air felt heavy. Lucas stayed inside, watching. Ethan walked toward the store, and then stopped, because in the reflection of the glass door, he saw it, standing behind him, perfectly still, smiling. Ethan didn't turn around. He couldn't, because somehow, he already knew. If he turned, it would be closer. Ethan slowly reached for the door handle, and in the reflection, the thing behind him leaned forward, close enough to whisper, "You shouldn't have left. There are places in the world that don't let you leave. Not physically, not always, but something else stays behind. Or worse, something comes with you." Ethan stood frozen in front of the gas station door. His hand hovered just inches from the handle, but he couldn't move, because in the reflection, that thing was still there, closer now, so close that its face was nearly pressed against the back of his head. Smiling, "You shouldn't have left." The voice didn't echo this time. It was clear, sharp, right behind him. Ethan closed his eyes for a brief second. Then, he turned. Nothing. The empty parking lot stretched behind him. Silent. Still. No figure. No movement. Just darkness. Ethan exhaled slowly. But it wasn't relief, because he could still feel it. That presence, closer than before. Watching. Waiting. He turned back to the glass door and froze again, because now it wasn't behind him anymore. It was inside, standing just beyond the glass, waiting for him to come in. Ethan stepped back instinctively, his heart pounding harder than ever. Inside the store, the lights flickered once, twice. The figure didn't move, but its smile widened, inviting, welcoming, like it knew something he didn't. "Dad!" Lucas's voice snapped him out of it. Ethan turned quickly. Lucas was leaning out of the truck window, concern written all over his face. "Who are you looking at?" Ethan hesitated, then shook his head. No one. But when he looked back, the store was empty. Completely empty. No figure. No movement. Nothing. Ethan walked back to the truck. Faster this time. He got in, locked the doors immediately. "Did you see something?" Lucas asked. Ethan didn't answer right away. Then, "Yeah." Lucas swallowed. "Is it still here?" Ethan looked at him. Really looked at him. Because suddenly, he wasn't sure. "Drive," Lucas said quietly. Ethan nodded. And they left. No gas. No stop. Just road. Endless road. Hours passed. The sky slowly began to lighten. Morning. And with it, something changed. The feeling started to fade. The weight in the air lifted. The silence became normal again. Ethan finally pulled over. Both of them exhausted. Neither of them had slept. Neither of them spoke for a long time, until Lucas finally broke the silence. "Do you think it's over?" Ethan looked out at the empty road ahead. He wanted to say yes. He really did. But something inside him wouldn't let him. "I don't know." Lucas nodded slowly. And for a moment, that was enough. They went home later that day. Not the same home. A different town. A different place. A fresh start. Or at least, that's what Ethan told himself. Weeks passed. Then months. Nothing happened. No signs, no shadows, no voices. Life slowly returned to normal. Lucas went back to school, made new friends, started smiling again. Ethan found a new job, kept himself busy, and little by little, the forest became a memory, a distant nightmare, something they didn't talk about anymore. Until one night, Lucas came into Ethan's room again. Just like before. "Dad." Ethan sat up instantly. "What is it?" Lucas hesitated, then said something that made Ethan's blood run cold. "I saw it again." Ethan's chest tightened. "Where?" Lucas's voice dropped to a whisper. "In my reflection." Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. Ethan stood up slowly. "Show me." They walked to the bathroom together. The light flicked on. The mirror stood there. Normal. Empty. Ethan looked at Lucas. "I don't see anything." Lucas nodded slowly. "Yeah, it's not there right now." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean, right now?" Lucas looked at his own reflection. And then, he smiled. But it wasn't his smile. Ethan's heart dropped. Because in the mirror, Lucas wasn't alone. Something was standing behind him. And this time, it wasn't trying to hide. The forest was never a place. It was something that followed, watched, waited, and when it found you, it didn't chase. It stayed right behind you.